Okay, call to order the case of Estate of Will Byers versus Hawkins House of Horrors. Plaintiff, are you prepared to go forward?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are you prepared to go forward?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, plaintiff, do you have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Francesco Greer, and I will be giving the opening statement for the plaintiff, the Estate of Will Byers. This case is about how safety should always come before any type of excitement. On the night of October 28, 2023, Will Byers and his best friend, Billy Hargrove, decided to enter the Hawkins House of Horrors, known locally as H3. Will expected the terror and screams to stay inside the house, but fate decided not to be so kind. Dacre Montgomery, the clown who chased Will outside the building, Will outside the building, decided made Will's screams of fear and terror turn to screams of pain. While Will was being chased outside, he was struck by a car. He did not die on site, but instead died 3 days later in a coma in the hospital. We believe that the stem of this unfortunate loss of life branches into two separate parts: neglect and improper training. Starting with the first branch, Dacre Montgomery neglected the safety of participants and instead decided to rush Will outside the building, neglecting his own safety. And we also found neglect in the location of the building, which was super close to the US 41. With cars passing all day and night, it's pretty much asking for an accident. We also believe that improper training was part of this. Dacre Montgomery would not have chased Will outside the building if he was never trained not to do so. In this case, you'll be hearing from Billy Hargrove, Will's best friend, who will tell you what happened on the night through his perspective. Max Mayfield, a local reporter from the news, who covered the scene, and Robin Buckley, Will's employer who worked with volunteers, who will tell you what happened during the training process. The defense will try to argue that Will had signed the paper and that he was reckless, but we hope that the jury finds him burnt for the plaintiff and finds the true cause.
Very good. Defense, opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. Your Honor, jury, this case is I'm Preston King, and I proudly represent the defense. Recklessness. This case is about recklessness. It's about a life lost because of one's own negligence and mistakes. Hawkins, Florida is a small town that wasn't known for much until H3 came around. H3 is Hawkins House of Horrors. It brought people and money to the small town. On October 28, 2023, it was an average night in H3. That is until Will Byers walked in the clown room. Will Byers is a reckless adult from Hawkins, Florida, whose mistakes cost him his own life. On this night, Will Byers broke many rules that the Hawkins House of Horrors had in place to avoid something like this from happening. First, he was drinking before the event. Drinking can cause extra recklessness and inability to control oneself. Mr. Byers also broke the no-touch rule that the haunted house had in place to avoid guests being panicked. By breaking this rule, the scarers were allowed to touch him and enhance his experience by making him more scared. And Will also didn't pay close attention to the rules. This caused him to break the rules that H3 imposed. If Will didn't want to have special treatment, he shouldn't have broke the rules. Will also has a deep fear of clowns. Phobias and fears cause people to act irrationally, especially when triggered in a haunted house. Will Byers shouldn't have even signed up to be scared, considering his deep phobia of clowns that he knew of beforehand. Today, you'll hear from many witnesses that have different perspectives on this case. With all these voices shouting different things, only one idea shines through, that of recklessness by Will Byers and his friend. He is trying to be compensated for a death that was purely his own fault. While listening to this case, remember his recklessness and carelessness towards his own life.
Thank you. Plaintiff, call your first witness.
The plaintiff calls the plaintiff calls Billy Hargrove to the stand.
Come around, Ms. Hargrove. Raise your right hand. You swear the statement you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You may have a seat.
Please state your name for the record.
Billy Hargrove,
Billy, how old are you?
27 years old.
Where'd you go to college?
Flatbart University,
Now, what you study in college?
financial arts.
Are you currently occupied?
Not at the moment.
Alright. Do you have any history with Will Byers?
Me and him know each other since kindergarten up until now.
Alright. Do you often go to haunted houses?
Yes, we do.
Alright. Let me bring you to the night of October 28th, 2023. Could you describe what you were doing before?
Me and Will went to a restaurant and then to a bar.
So you said you went to a bar. How many drinks did you have?
2.
Alright. Could you please describe the location of the H3, the Hawkins House of Horrors?
It was very dim on the inside and it was built way too close to Highway 41.
Alright. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Let the record reflect I'm showing opposing counsel what has been previously marked, Exhibit 3, what has been previously marked as Exhibit 3, as Plaintiff Exhibit 3. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It was the exact replica of H3.
Alright. Is this a true and correct copy of the map?
Yes.
Alright. Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibit 3 as Plaintiff Exhibit 3.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so moved.
Your Honor, may I publish this to the jury?
You may.
Alright. Could you mark the jury of where the incident occurred?
The incident occurred right here in this spot.
And how far away was H3 from the US 41?
About 40 feet from US 41.
Alright. So, marking the time of the incident, how did Will exit the building in the first place?
The clown started to chase him out through the end of the haunted house, and things went downhill from there.
Alright. So where were you when this happened?
I was right behind the clowns and Will.
Alright. And what were you doing while this happened?
I was trying to run with Will and the clowns.
Alright. So did you ask the clowns to stop when you saw that Will was getting overstimulated, I guess?
Yes, I did.
Alright. Did they listen to you?
Not at all.
Alright. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Will Byers is your best friend, right?
Yes, he is.
And aren't you and Will haunted house fanatics?
Yes, he is.
And you've been to many haunted houses before?
Yes.
When you heard of H3 and all its new scary additions, didn't you want to go?
Yes.
And you even volunteered, didn't you?
Yes.
And didn't you have to go through the rigorous interview process that H3 did in order to choose the best scares?
He did.
And before going to H3, didn't you and Will go to the bar and have drinks?
Yes, we did.
And didn't Will spill food on himself at dinner?
Yes.
Don't you know that a sign of being intoxicated is clumsiness and inability to control oneself? And wasn't Will looking around the room instead of looking at the rules?
Yes.
And one of the rules was to not be under the influence of drugs, right?
Yes.
And you guys had drinks before, right? Based on this information, do you expect the jury to believe that you or Will weren't under the influence of any alcohol?
Could you repeat that, please?
Is it your statement today that you and Will weren't under the influence of any alcohol? And weren't the first parts of H3 fun?
Yes.
And wasn't the atmosphere at H3 loud, chaotic, and hot?
Yes.
And wouldn't you say that it's harder to be self-aware in an environment like that?
Yes.
The final area was different from the rest, wasn't it?
Sort of.
It had clowns, something Will has a deep fear of, right?
Yes. You could usually just withstand them.
And didn't Will break the no-touch rule by pushing past the clowns?
He did, yes.
And breaking this rule allowed the clowns to touch Will, right?
Yes, but what they did after was unacceptable.
Didn't the clowns engage with Will after he broke the rule?
Yes.
And after he broke the rule, didn't Will run out of the haunted house into the highway where he met his fate?
He did not run out of the house on the road because the clowns pushed him out of the house.
No further questions.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may step down. Call your next witness.
Plaintiff holds Max Mayfield to the stand.
Come around, Mr. Mayfield. Raise your right hand. You swear the statement you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay, may I have a seat?
May I inquire?
Yes, you may.
Please state your name for the record. Max Mayfield. How old are you? I am 36 years old. And what do you do for a living? I work for the Tribune newspaper. What college did you go to? Meadow College. What did you study in college? I studied communication and arts and journalism. How do you know Will Byers? I have interviewed him in the past for the Hawkins Herald. How did you find out about Hawkins House of Horrors? I was told by the city board that there was intent to create a non-profit haunted house. Do you know about the dress rehearsals that take place at Hawkins House of Horrors? Yes. Were you at the dress rehearsals? Yes. Could you please explain to the jury what takes place at the dress rehearsals? The dress rehearsals is where the clowns and other people who are working there are like able to try out their clothes that they're gonna wear during the night, and they also see what looks is good. Were you concerned about the volunteers' behavior at the dress rehearsals? Yes. Why were you concerned? I thought that they were being too aggressive and were trying to scare people too much. Have you gone to during the dress rehearsal, did you see the volunteers preparing for any emergencies that may could have happened? No. Have you gone to the instruction and safety meeting? Yes. Did you notice anyone missing from the instruction and safety meeting? I'm not originally from Hawkins, so it was hard to tell, but I could expect some people were definitely not present. Let me direct you to the date of October 28th. Were you there the night that tragic accident happened? I was not present. What were you doing? I was doing my job for the Hawkins Herald at the time of the incident. As a journalist, what do you usually report about? I write about agriculture and how food affects us, and I also cover hurricanes across Florida. Have you seen or written any reports about accidents on Highway 41? Yes. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Let the record reflect I'm showing the opposing counsel what has been previously marked as Plaintiff Exhibit 9. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
How do you recognize this exhibit?
I wrote this newspaper article for the Hawkins Herald.
Is it a true and correct copy?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter this as Exhibit 9, Plaintiff Exhibit 9.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Are you cross-examining this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. If there's no objection, it will be entered.
May I publish to the jury?
Yes, you may.
Did you write this newspaper for Hawkins House of Horrors?
Yes.
What did you write it about?
I wrote it about its success over the first weekend.
You have explained that during the rehearsal you saw the volunteers' behavior was really aggressive. Why didn't you write anything about it in the newspaper?
I didn't think it was a big concern, and I didn't want to ruin the uphill like fun that is going around the circle.
No further questions.
Okay. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. You considered H3 to be a positive event, correct?
Yes,
You worked closely with Finn Wolfhard while reporting, correct?
yes,
Did you have any concerns?
yes,
Did you voice these concerns to the public?
no,
You saw the excitement and support leading up to H3, correct?
yes,
You attended the dress rehearsal that weekend, correct?
yes,
You observed all the volunteers and the management team, correct?
yes,
Is it fair to say that haunted houses are supposed to be thrilling or scary?
yes,
The area outside of H3, including Highway 41, was it visible to all guests?
yes, but some kids with possible disabilities might not be able to see it, and if it's too dark, it might be possible to not see it.
Did Will have a disability?
No,
Are you aware that all guests, including Will Byers, was informed of the rules and expectations?
yes,
Was Dacre, the clown that chased Will, known as an aggressive person?
yes,
Did you give affidavit in this case?
yes,
Were you under oath when you gave an affidavit?
yes,
On page, on page 36 and 37, lines 116 and 116 and 117, you said that Dacre was quiet. Is he now aggressive?
yes, but he and Will also have a tense rivalry, which could have been the cause of this.
In your investigation, did you find any evidence that H3 intended to provide a unsafe or intended to harm anyone there?
No, I did not find evidence that the Hawkins House of Horrors wanted to harm anyone.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very good. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Call your next witness.
Plaintiff calls Robin Buckley to the stand.
Sir.
Ms. Buckley, raise your right hand. You swear the statement you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You may have a seat.
May I inquire?
Yes, you may.
What is your name?
Robin Buckley,
How old are you?
44 years old.
What is your relationship with Will Byers?
He was my employee.
And how are you affiliated with Hawkins House of Horrors?
I was a volunteer and I worked all 4 nights of the event.
So as a volunteer, was there a training process?
There was not much of a training process. They described the safety rules, but that was pretty much about it.
How long was this training process?
It was not 30 minutes.
What topics were covered?
Topics that were covered was basically the safety, like not touching people, but there wasn't any hands-on practice.
Did the volunteers have to complete their training to work there?
No, many people didn't come to the training process, but they were allowed to work anyways.
Was there anything in place to verify the rules and make sure that the volunteers understood them?
No, they didn't give us any tasks to make sure we understood.
Were all of the volunteers assigned different roles?
Yes, I was a part of the rules room.
And were there instructions on how to interact safely with the attendees?
Can you please repeat that question?
Were there any instructions on how to interact safely with the attendees?
No.
And were there any guidelines for the volunteers on how to interact with guests that seemed too frightened or disoriented?
They told us how to scare people, but they didn't tell us the limit on how far we could go on scaring them.
So did they emphasize the guests' safety?
Can you please repeat that?
Did they emphasize the guests' safety?
No.
So how did they ensure that the volunteers followed the rules?
There were things, but they didn't really seem like they were paying attention to if we were following the rules or not.
So if the volunteers violated the rules, what actions were taken?
Can you please repeat that?
If the volunteers violated the rules, what actions were taken?
They didn't really enforce anything, even though they were managers, but they didn't really do anything about it.
Were there complaints from the guests?
I saw some guests that were really scared
respond?
They didn't really do anything. They wanted to keep things moving the same way.
So you said you were a volunteer. Were you required to attend the meetings?
No, but I did.
Was there a makeup session of some sort?
No, if you missed the makeup, you worked without any training.
So there was no additional training to correct concerns? I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Cross-examination?
During the preparation for the haunted house, which was on October 19th, were you present for the dress rehearsal?
Yes,
During this dress rehearsal, a safety meeting was conducted, correct?
yes,
All the staff were told not to touch the public, but an exception would be made if the people touched them first, correct?
yes,
Later this night, you had a conversation with Nick Weimers and Finn Wolfhard. In this meeting, you addressed the issue of the clowns overreacting, correct?
yes,
Did Finn agree to note this down?
yes,
Did she tell the clowns about this?
no,
Flash forward to the next day of October 20th. On this day, were you assigned to work in the graveyard?
yes,
You stated that they had overall reasonable behavior during this weekend, right?
can you please repeat that?
You stated that they had overall reasonable behavior during this weekend, correct?
Yes,
Moving on to the second weekend, you were assigned to the rules room, right?
yes,
You stated during this time that many people had returned to the haunted house only to have their reactions much more dimmed down due to previous visits. Was this a factor in the clowns stepping up their game?
yes,
On the final day of that weekend, you were giving instructions in the rules room, and you saw Will Byers and Billy Hartgrove as well as 3 other girls in your party, correct?
yes,
Were there printouts of the rules outside of the rules room?
yes,
Despite these countless reminders of the rules and further explanation of these rules in the rules room, did Billy or Will pay any attention to them?
they didn't really pay attention.
Furthermore, you specified that the main oversight, that the haunted house was located right next to Highway 41 in your explanation, correct?
Yes,
Was the proximity of the highway to the haunted house visible to Will before he entered the haunted house?
yes, it was visible to everyone.
Not to mention, did you have the assumption that Will and his friend Billy were under the influence of alcohol?
I could smell the alcohol, but I couldn't tell who it was.
As the rules director, would you be familiar with the rules?
Yes,
Your Honor, may I pursue witness?
You may.
Let the record reflect that I'm showing the opposing counsel what has been previously marked as Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this?
yes.
How do you recognize this?
These were the rules and policies that we discussed in the safety meeting.
Your Honor, I move to enter what has been previously marked as Exhibit 1 as Defense Exhibit 1.
Is this a true and correct copy of those rules?
Yes,
And you've seen those before?
yes,
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. If there's no objection, I'll allow this to be entered.
May I publish this? May I
You may.
publish this? Your Honor? Could you please read the 6th rule that has been highlighted?
no,
Sorry, say that again?
Could you please read the 6th rule that has been highlighted?
no drugs or illegal intoxicants of any kind. If we suspect a visitor is under the influence of such substances, they may be denied admittance or removed at their own discretion.
Does this rule state that one must be drunk to be denied entry, or simply under the influence of alcohol?
Under the influence.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Plaintiff, call your next witness.
Plaintiff Russ.
Okay. You may step down. Defense, call your first witness.
Defense calls Dacre Montgomery to the stand.
Montgomery, come around. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the statement you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
May I have a seat? You may inquire.
What is your name?
I'm Dacre Montgomery.
And how old are you?
I'm 28 years old.
How long have you lived in Hawkins?
I lived in Hawkins my whole life.
What college did you attend?
I went to Flatiron University.
And what degree did you earn?
I studied in agriculture.
What is your current occupation?
I'm a farmer.
What lessons did you learn? What lessons did you learn by growing up in Hawkins, while growing up in
I learned that harmful pranks aren't fun.
Hawkins? And how did you first get involved in Hawkins House of Horrors?
I saw a volunteer service for it online, and I thought it would be good for me since I like pranking.
I'm going to call it H3 from now on. Do you understand that?
Yes.
What job did you have at H3?
I was a scarer at the exit of the hall.
And what different tactics did you have to scare people?
We had fake blood packets that we would use to act like we were attacking our coworkers.
And what were you dressed up as?
I was dressed up as a clown.
And what was wearing the mask like?
Sometimes visibility was poor because the sweat would drip down your face.
And pick up Defense Exhibit 1. Can you please read line 6?
No drugs or illegal intoxicants of any kind.
What happened with you and Will Byers on the night of October 28, 2023?
Well, I saw Will at the end of the hall, and he shoved two of my coworkers really hard, and so I read my fake chainsaw, and he ran past me.
And did Will break the no-touch rule?
Yes, very.
Did you stop before he got to the street?
Yeah, I stopped running out of the house a few feet after.
Okay, that's very much.
Okay, cross-examination.
So, Baker, you have a history of pranking, right?
Yeah,
Alright. And you skipped a half the safety meeting, right?
yeah. But I asked Miss Finn Wolfberg about it, and she said that it was pretty redundant.
How many meetings were there in total?
There was one safety meeting and then a dress rehearsal.
Alright. Isn't it true that you plan to give Will Byers and Billy Hargrove an intense experience?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Let the record reflect, I'm showing opposing counsel Exhibit 8. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I did.
How do you recognize this document?
It was a group chat that I was in during the night of the incident.
This is a true and correct copy of the document.
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter what has been previously marked as Exhibit 8, as Plaintiff Exhibit 8.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
There's no objection, this will be entered.
Your Honor, may I publish this to the jury?
Yes.
Could you please read to the jury box 4?
Will and his buddy just entered. Looked stoked to have the pants scared off.
Wouldn't giving it a more intense experience than other guests cause more reckless behavior?
Yes, I believe so, but it is a house of horror, so you're meant to be scared.
You chased Will outside the building, correct?
Correct.
And Will didn't stop to look behind?
After I ran out the house, I went back inside, so I couldn't tell.
Alright. But you could see Will keep running, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it human nature to run away from danger?
Yes.
Alright. So you chased people outside buildings, correct? Not just Will.
Correct, but only a few feet after I exited the building.
Was this part of training?
No, it wasn't really marked by anything, so you just have to eyeball it.
Alright. Isn't it true that you ingested quite a bit of caffeine?
Yeah.
And doesn't caffeine cause people to have a more reckless and possibly aggressive behavior?
Yeah, but I don't think it affected me that much.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Need to redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Call your next witness.
The defense calls Finn Wolfhard to the stand.
Come around. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the statement you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
What's your name?
My name is Finn Park.
How old are you?
I am 27 years old.
What's your role at Hawkins on board?
I am the health coordinator.
Do you have any experience with haunted houses?
You need to
Yes,
speak up, counsel.
Do you have any experience with haunted houses?
Yes, I worked at the Manassas Murder Mansion.
How long did you plan and prepare H3?
A few months in advance.
Can you explain the process of how you selected volunteers?
We put on the criteria that they have to be mature to be scared because you can't do it over, but you also can just laugh about it. And we wanted to make sure they would be responsible enough to show up there and have the right respect for us.
Describe how you informed guests about the rules.
We put on social media and asked Max Wayfield to put it out on his
How did volunteers, including the clowns, behave during the event?
They were all really calm, but the clowns were the rowdiest bunch.
Is your role as coordinator, how would you describe the operation of H3?
I would describe it as smooth and well-going.
Okay. Based on your planning and preparation, did you have any reason to predict that Will Byers, the deceased, would run outside of H3?
No, I didn't think he would run outside, but we did prepare the guests to any situation.
Did you take precaution about cars passing on Highway 41?
Yes, we put out different tables. No, it was just for generosity to waiting patrons, but it was also a blockage to Highway 5.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. As head coordinator, you decide where the event takes place, correct?
Yes, I did.
You had explained that the location for H3 was based off of convenience and visibility. Was there any consideration given for the safety of the large crowd?
Yes, there was. We did have the place that we chose had a big canvas, so we didn't think it would be too crowded. It never did get crowded.
Is it true that you got an email from the chief of police regarding the volunteer's behavior?
Yes, I did.
May I approach a witness?
Yes, you may.
Let the record reflect I'm showing the opposing counsel what has been previously marked as Plaintiff Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I did.
How do you recognize it?
It is the email that Chief Shaw sent me.
Is it a true and correct copy?
Speak up, counsel.
Your Honor, I move to enter this as Plaintiff Exhibit 6.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
If there's no objection, then we will allow this to be entered as Plaintiff's Exhibit 6.
May I publish the jury?
Yes, you may.
There are a few close calls similar to Will's incident, correct?
Not really. Not really, but there was a little behavioral issues with the class.
And those close calls were caused because of the clown's behavior, correct?
Yes.
Have you talked to the clowns about the behavior?
They did want to use fake blood. Some of the guests didn't like it, so I did tell them to stop.
Have you talked to and because of those close calls, have you had safety measures and precautions raised?
We did add orange cones to block Highway 41.
Chief Shaw's email mentioned the clowns almost caused individuals to run onto Highway 41. After reading the email, what specific steps did you take to ensure people's safety?
Adding cones.
You helped assign volunteers, correct?
Yes.
Did you make sure every volunteer was up to standard?
Yes.
Did you notice any of the volunteers not attending the safety meeting?
Not really.
At the safety meetings, did you mention to the volunteers not to chase patrons farther than 10 feet away from the building?
Yes.
In Xavier Montgomery, one of your clowns broke that rule by chasing Will into the highway, correct?
He stopped he stopped at the right amount, but he didn't actually chase him out.
No further questions.
Okay. You redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Defense calls Charlie Heaton to the stand.
So you can come around. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the statement you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did.
You may inquire.
Can you please state your complete name for the court?
Charlie Heaton.
What's your occupation?
I am a police officer for the Hawkins Police Department
How long have you been working here?
for over 2 decades.
Do you feel competent with the position you are in?
I did.
How or in what way are you connected to this case?
I'm connected to this case because I saw Will Byers run into Highway 41.
How was the buildup and formality of the test group for the haunted house as part of the test group?
As part of the test group, we tried on the outfits for the haunted house, and we worked out some cakes.
Can you state what timings you were assigned to?
October 21st and October 28th.
You had a conversation with your boss, Mel Shaw, on the morning of the 28th. Can you explain the details?
He told me to keep the clowns in line and make sure all the rules were followed.
Let me direct you to the night of October 28th, 2023, where you were assigned as the officer for the area. Can you describe the haunted house?
It seemed a lot more crowded than the week prior.
Were there any changes or additions to the haunted house since the
There were.
previous weekend?
There were new neon orange cones marking as a barrier for Highway 41.
How did you come to know about these changes?
I came to know about these changes because I saw a customer almost run into Highway 41, but the cone stopped it.
Can you describe what you saw throughout your shift?
Throughout my shift, I saw a couple of close calls, but they were all stopped.
Do you have any thoughts or details about the clown chase past the exit?
All I know is they were just trying to make this spooky atmosphere come to life.
Through your statement, you said that you had a conversation with Will Byers and his friend Billy. Can you state what happened?
I saw that Will Byers was on edge, and he seemed a lot more jittery than normal.
As you continued through your shift, how did you come to know about the accident with Will Byers and Mr. Teddy?
As I was on my shift, I saw Will Byers running into Highway 41.
Can you describe the scene?
As soon as he got hit, I immediately started detouring traffic, and I immediately radioed EMS services.
Once you started your investigation, what were your eventual results on the driver and the accident?
There was no excess swerving involved, and there was nothing the driver could do to avoid hitting Will Byers.
After the report, what information did you gather on the clown chase?
I gathered that the clown that was chasing Will Byers was his friend, Dacre Montgomery.
Using this information, what were your final results on the investigation?
My final results was that Will Byers was not acting like a normal person at all, because he had to get through all the obstacles, like the orange cones, the picnic tables, and he had to get through the crowd.
Your department received a pay of $5,000 from the Hawkins House of Horrors before the investigation results were finalized. Can you explain what this fund was about and if it had any connection to the case?
It had a connection to the case because the sidewalk was right next to Highway 41, and they wanted to make sure it was in a great condition. That way people would not run into Highway 41 again.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Cross-examination?
So your department was paid $5,000, correct?
Correct.
Did this bias your choices in any way? You were present during the night of October 28th, correct?
I was.
And Dacre was chasing Will?
Yes.
Will was running, correct?
Yes.
And he was in a state of panic?
From what I saw.
And you would agree that somebody dressed in frightening costume chasing someone would be scared, right?
Yes.
And the defendant had created this fear, right?
I assume so.
And Dacre didn't try to calm down Will at all?
I didn't see the clown chase, so
So Dacre just stood there and did nothing?
I would think so.
So if Dacre never chased Will, would this have happened?
No.
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Well, if Dacre hadn't chased him, Will would not have ran into the highway.
Would you agree, though, that it is speculative what Will would have done? I'm going to sustain the objection.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense, call your next witness.
Defense rests.
Very good. Plaintiff, are you prepared to give a closing argument?
Yes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here today because of an incident that should have never happened. Will Byers went to Hawkins House of Horrors expecting a night of fun and excitement. Instead, he lost his life due to negligence of those responsible for ensuring his safety. This was not a random accident. It was the result of poor training, inadequate supervision, and a disregard for basic safety measures. You've heard testimonies from volunteers who worked at the haunted house, Will's best friend, and a news reporter. Their words paint a clear picture. Hawkins House of Horrors had little focus on safety. Volunteers were told not to touch guests, but beyond that, they received no detailed instruction on how to interact with people's safety. Some volunteers missed their training entirely and were still allowed to work. When the haunted house opened its doors, supervision was minimal. Managers were present, but they weren't actively monitoring the volunteers to make sure they followed safety protocols. Even when guests appeared visibly frightened, no action was taken. Complaints, if any, were ignored. And despite having the opportunity to address these issues after opening weekend, the management made no effort to improve safety procedures. The focus was not on protecting guests. It was creating the scariest experience possible, no matter the cost. And tragically, it led to the loss of a young life, Will Byers' death. Will Byers' death was preventable. If volunteers had been properly trained, if they had given clear guidelines and closely supervised, this tragedy would never have happened. But the management of Hawkins House of Horrors failed in their duty for their guests. So we ask for the juries to find the verdict that Hawkins House of Horrors has been negligent and are fully liable for Will Byers' death.
Thank you. Defense, do you have an do you have a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is a case of negligence in which the Hawkins House of Horrors was sued for not following the proper mandates and protocols. As you've seen in this case, Will Byers was solely responsible for his own death, and the evidence that has been shown contradicts any argument the plaintiff's side has brought up. Will Byers and his friend, Billy Harpo, were clowning around during their time at H3. They broke countless rules during their short stay at the haunted house. First, they drank alcohol shortly before entering the house. They weren't intoxicated, but they were still under the influence of alcohol, which clearly goes against the rules and policy. Secondly, Will and Billy were playing around and not paying attention to the rules given by witness Robin Buckley. Mr. Buckley had even stated the proximity of the highway to the haunted house. Even if Robin hadn't specifically said this, the highway was clearly visible to the normal person from outside of the house. Therefore, Will had no excuse to deny this. Lastly, Will broke the no-touching rule by touching two of the clowns in the final room. This gave Dacre Montgomery permission to touch Will, causing Will to run out of the room, past the exit, and onto the highway. Here, Will ran past a crowd, picnic tables, traffic cones, and countless other hurdles onto the road. The haunted house followed the protocols necessary to warn Will, even outside the exit, but he failed to realize it. Following that incident, Dacre Montgomery was said to be liable for malicious intent against Will. Dacre had no such intent against Mr. Byers, and stated that there were multiple Wills and Billys in town. From this information, Will was purely responsible for his own death, as he failed to follow rules, did not cooperate with policies, and paid no attention to them when told. We believe that Hawkins House of Horrors should not be liable for Will Byers' death on Highway 41. For these reasons, after you've heard all the evidence, we hope that you will make the right decision.
Thank you.